Football is more than just a sport, it's a time machine. Every decade had its own magic, its own legends, and its own unforgettable moments. But which era truly defined the beautiful game? Was it the 90s, where raw talent and unfiltered flair ruled the pitch? The 2000s, where legends were born and football reached new heights of global dominance? The 2010s, with its fierce rivalries and tactical revolutions? Or are we currently witnessing football's greatest transformation in the 2020s? Think about your favorite football memories, the stunning goals, the emotional World Cup moments, the impossible comebacks. Each generation has its heroes. Ronaldo Nazário, Zidane, Ronaldinho, Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo. But when you compare their eras, who had it the best? Some say the 90s had football's rawest form, beautiful chaos where anything could happen. Others argue that the 2000s had the perfect mix of skill, tactics, and unforgettable drama. Then, of course, we have the 2010s, a decade dominated by rivalries and tactical evolution. And now, we're in the 2020s, witnessing football's biggest transformation yet. In this video, we'll break down each footballing decade, reliving its magic, analyzing its impact, and revealing why the 2000s might just be football's greatest era. So sit back, relive the nostalgia, and let's settle this debate once and for all. Star, the 1990s, the era of flair and mavericks. If football in the 90s had one defining trait, it was flair. This was the era where raw, unfiltered talent ruled the game. No overcomplicated tactics, no pressing systems, just pure individual brilliance. And at the heart of it all, some of the most mesmerizing players the world has ever seen. One name stands above the rest, Ronaldo Nazário. Before the injuries, before the debates, there was O Fenomeno in his prime. A striker so complete, so explosive, that defenders simply had no answer. At just 21, he won the Ballon d'Or, and in 1998, he led Brazil to the World Cup final. His dribbling, acceleration, and finishing made him the most feared forward of the decade. But he wasn't alone. Zinedine Zidane, a maestro in midfield, was redefining elegance on the ball. His vision, technique, and ability to turn the biggest moments into magic made him the face of France's golden generation. And then there was Roberto Baggio, Italy's genius, whose unforgettable World Cup '94 campaign cemented his legacy, despite the heartbreak of that missed penalty. The 90s also gave us something modern football often lacks: flair-driven unpredictability. Players like George Weah, the only African to win the Ballon d'Or, were dazzling fans with their solo runs. Rivaldo was bending the laws of physics with his free kicks. And let's not forget the rise of a young David Beckham, who introduced English football to a level of technical finesse rarely seen before. Beyond the individual brilliance, the decade also brought unforgettable moments. The 1994 World Cup was a festival of goals. From Bebeto's baby-rocking celebration to Hristo Stoichkov's Bulgaria shocking Germany. France '98 was even bigger. The tournament that saw Zidane announce himself to the world, leading his nation to its first-ever World Cup trophy on home soil. It was a decade of underdog stories, with teams like Croatia reaching the semi-finals in their first World Cup appearance in '98. Tactically, football was still in transition. The game was more physical, defenses were rugged, and the midfield was a battleground. Unlike today's structured formations, the 90s were about instinct and improvisation. Managers like Arrigo Sacchi were revolutionizing defensive organization, while Johan Cruyff's Barcelona Dream Team was laying the foundation for the modern passing game. Looking back, the 90s had it all: unpredictability, flair, and legendary players. It was a time when the game was wild, creative, and breathtakingly beautiful. But was it the greatest football era? Or was there something even bigger coming in the 2000s? Star, the 2000s, the magical decade. If there's one word to describe football in the 2000s, it's magic. This was the decade where football reached new heights, not just in terms of quality, but in global influence, entertainment, and unforgettable drama. The 2000s gave us a new generation of icons, players who defined an era with their elegance, technique, and sheer brilliance. At the heart of it all, Ronaldinho, the Brazilian magician who played football like an artist, turning every match into a spectacle. His no-look passes, outrageous dribbles, and iconic goals made millions fall in love with the game. In 2005, he received a standing ovation at the Santiago Bernabéu, something no Barcelona player had ever experienced before. But he wasn't alone. This was the decade where Thierry Henry, Kaká, and Andrea Pirlo were at their peak. Henry was the epitome of class, gliding past defenders with ease. Kaká was a one-man counterattack, combining pace, power, and finesse. Pirlo, the maestro who controlled games with effortless precision, dictating play like a chess grandmaster. And of course, Didier Drogba, who embodied power and clutch performances, cementing his legacy as one of the most feared strikers of his era. And then there was the emergence of two young superstars who would dominate football for the next 2 decades, Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. Ronaldo transformed from a flashy winger at Manchester United into a goal machine, while Messi's rise at Barcelona was nothing short of phenomenal. By the end of the decade, both had won their first Ballon d'Ors, signaling the start of a new era. The 2000s also brought some of the greatest football moments in history. The miracle of Istanbul in 2005, where Liverpool came back from 3-0 or down against AC Milan in the Champions League final. Zidane's unforgettable volley in the 2002 Champions League final, arguably the most beautiful goal in UCL history. And of course, the 2006 World Cup, where Italy triumphed in a dramatic final, marked by Zidane's shocking headbutt on Materazzi. The decade also saw Arsenal's legendary Invincibles season, a feat that remains unmatched in the Premier League era. Tactically, football was evolving. The 4-3-3 and 4-2-3-1 became dominant, emphasizing possession and fluid attacking play. Jose Mourinho's Chelsea introduced a new level of defensive solidity, while Pep Guardiola's Barcelona laid the groundwork for the tiki-taka revolution. The 2000s were special, a perfect balance of individual brilliance and tactical evolution. Was this the greatest football era of all time, or did the 2010s take the game to an even higher level? The 2010s, tactical revolution and rivalries. If the 90s were about flair and the 2000s about magic, the 2000s and 10s were the decade of tactical evolution and legendary rivalries. Football was no longer just about raw talent. It became a chess match where strategy, pressing, and data analysis redefined the game. At the heart of this tactical revolution was Pep Guardiola's Barcelona. His tiki-taka system wasn't just a style of play, it was a philosophy. The 2010-11 Barca team is still considered one of the greatest club sides ever, playing a level of football that looked almost untouchable. But it wasn't just Barcelona that dominated. The 2010s saw the rise of Klopp's gegenpressing, Simeone's defensive masterclass, and the resurgence of Juventus in Serie A. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich evolved into a European powerhouse, culminating in their historic 2013 and 2020 trebles. While tactics were evolving, so was the greatest individual battle in football history, Messi versus Ronaldo. No longer just young stars, they became football's titans, breaking every record in sight. Year after year, the two superstars went head-to-head for the Ballon d'Or, trading Champions League trophies and pushing each other to unreal levels. Their rivalry defined the decade, elevating the sport to new global heights, and forcing their teams, Barcelona and Real Madrid, into constant one-upmanship. But the 2010s weren't just about club football. This was the decade of unforgettable international moments. Spain's golden era reached its peak, winning back-to-back European championships and a World Cup, showcasing possession-based dominance at its finest. Germany's ruthless efficiency crushed Brazil 7-1 in the 2014 World Cup, one of the most shocking results in history. And then came 2018, where an exciting young French team, led by Kylian Mbappé, conquered the world. The emergence of new stars signaled the end of an era for legends like Iniesta, Xavi, and Buffon. Football also saw the rise of unexpected underdog stories. Leicester City's 2015-16 Premier League title win remains one of the greatest sporting miracles ever. Atletico Madrid, against all odds, broke the Barcelona-Real Madrid duopoly in Spain, and Ajax's 2018-19 Champions League run reminded the world that even in modern football, fairy tales still exist. Off the pitch, football became bigger than ever before. Social media turned players into global superstars, transfers hit unprecedented numbers, and clubs turned into global brands. The game was faster, smarter, and more data-driven than ever, making every tactical decision a matter of science. The 2010s changed football forever. It was a decade of evolution, competition, and innovation. But does all this tactical intelligence make it the best era? Or has football reached an even higher level in the 2020s? The 2020s, the modern game. We are now living in the 2020s, a decade where football is faster, more tactical, and more data-driven than ever before. The game has evolved beyond just talent and tactics. It's now a science, where analytics, technology, and financial power dominate. One of the biggest shifts in modern football is the rise of superclubs. Teams like Manchester City and Paris Saint-Germain have reshaped the sport with financial backing that allows them to assemble dream squads. Transfer fees have exploded, with clubs spending hundreds of millions on players like Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe, the new global superstars set to dominate the decade. Meanwhile, traditional giants like Real Madrid and Bayern Munich continue to adapt, blending experience with new generational talents. Tactically, the 2020s have taken pressing and positional play to a whole new level. Coaches like Guardiola, Klopp, and Arteta are constantly refining their systems, making football more intense and structured. Data analytics now dictate team selections, substitutions, and even in-game decisions. At the same time, the game has also faced new challenges: VAR controversies, fixture congestion, and the growing debate about financial inequality in football. Are we witnessing the peak of football's evolution, or is the sport losing its soul in pursuit of perfection? The 2020s are still unfolding, but one thing is clear: football will never stop evolving. So after journeying through football's greatest eras, one question remains: what was the best decade of all? The 90s had raw flair, unpredictable magic, and some of the most iconic individual talents the game has ever seen. The 2000s brought balance, a perfect mix of legendary players, unforgettable moments, and tactical advancements. The 2010s took the sport to new heights, with tactical revolutions, intense rivalries, and data-driven strategies. And now, in the 2000s and 20s, football is evolving faster than ever, blending science, money, and talent into a new era of dominance. But if we had to choose one, the case for the 2000s is strong. It was a golden period where football had the best of everything: magic, competitiveness, and evolution. The game was still unpredictable. Tactics were advancing but not overcomplicated, and individual brilliance could still define a match. From Ronaldinho's artistry to Zidane's elegance and the rise of Messi and Ronaldo, the 2000s gave us moments that still live in football history. It was the last era before football became fully consumed by analytics, a time when passion and unpredictability still reigned supreme. Now it's your turn to decide. Which football era do you think was the greatest? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more football debates.